Hello everyone. We're now in week 3 of painting seasonal flowers, and I'm going to leave the snow behind now and have some lovely, use some lovely warmer colours, and we've had some lovely sunny weather in March so far, so while I'm still going to paint a hellebore, which is more of a wintry flower, I'm actually going to give it a little bit more colour and interest by painting a more colourful background around it. I've still got my colours out in the palettes that I used last week with the purple hellebore. So I'm going to use some of those colours for my background and see what sort of mixes I can make. But if you don't have those colours still out, I've given you a suggestion here of, I'm just turning the music down. Better music. I've given you a suggestion of some colours here, just 3 colours, so as not to get too complicated. French ultramarine, aureolin and permanent carmine, which are colours I was using last time, but you can see the different mixes that you can actually get with them. And so if you don't have the colours already out still that we used last time, that's a suggestion, and that's my sort of take on the three primary colours. I've got the Fabriano paper again, which I really like for flowers, and it's quite good for the backgrounds as well. A selection of brushes here, but I'm not sure yet whether I'm going to be using them all. I found my acrylic lifting brush that's on the floor, but I'll start with my large 8 and see how it goes. So I'm going to use a lot of water, nice clean water, and lots of paint. At this point I don't really know exactly what is going to happen, what my end result is totally going to be. But I do have the flowers in front of me, which you can't really see, but I'll just pop some here. See if you can actually see them. And I've got one out at the side for you to see what I'm working with. But I'm really only using them for inspiration. I don't want to get the exact detail. I want to stay loose, and I want to just give the impression of these flowers without getting too bogged down with the detail. So I'm actually just going to put quite a lot of water down to start with, and in certain areas, and let the colours mingle on the page and float. As you can see in this hellebore, there is a lot of green in them, but I don't actually like that green. I've mixed a duller, softer green, but then that's, you know, that's a matter of choice. I don't really like that brighter green. That isn't kind of what I'm looking for. So quite a bit of water to start with, because it's going to soak into the paper and dry quite quickly if I don't put too much on, if I don't put enough on. And I mixed a nice green, which I'm actually going to use as part of the background to begin with. I mixed the aureolin with the ultramarine blue, which I had out there. So I'm just going to load my brush and let that float into the background. It's a sort of greeny grey, which I like with white. So just putting a lighter mix down to start with. So I'm not going to get fussy with it today, and I'm going to let the paint and the water make a lot of the nice marks for me and maybe have to use a lifting out technique quite a bit perhaps. But I am hoping that some of it will actually float into the flower, which is what I'm sort of looking for really. So I'll start with that area and work down. I shall possibly put more colour over the top of this, but I'm going to get a smaller brush going at the minute and just let that undercoat, which I really like, float into my flowers a bit. So while it's still wet, it should make its own way. Some colours actually float and move around better than others, and might need, this isn't moving that well, might need a bit of help with that. But this is only the beginning. My biggest tip that I'm going to give you is to just keep going, enjoy the process, and don't judge until it's finished and dry. That really, really is important. But I am thinking about what I'm doing all the time. I'm not being careless just because it's loose. I'm still trying to think about what might happen to an extent, and thinking about where I'm putting colour, thinking about where I can lift back out to get some soft edges. I'm really softening at the moment, softening these colours a bit. And just, you see, if you use the lifting out technique, you can keep your shapes going nicely. Get the shape back again if you feel you've lost some of your whites. So that, I think, is looking fairly okay. I'm going to actually carry on down with that at the moment. While that's still damp, I'm keeping an eye on it because I want to go back into it, I think. While it's still damp. And put some darker tones in. Just bringing out this shape of this larger one in the focal point. It's another thing to remember, to make sure you get a really good focal point. Right. I've got this lovely yellow, bit of the new gamboge left over, so a nice bright yellow always looks good and can mingle with other colours to make nice mixes. So maybe through the centre with that nice yellow. I want to get some dark going on before it dries too much. So keep a nice clean brush going on. So I think we'll put some depth in here, just using maybe a little bit of the ultramarine. You can always test your colours. So the blues and the yellows are lovely together, they will always look nice. And where I've put the yellow, I'm going to get an even different blend. If you feel you need to change to a smaller brush to get nice detail, or a more detailed shape, shall I say, just change to a smaller brush. Soften that away. Now you can start to see the shapes of the flowers appearing a bit more. But there's a long way to go, so I'm not judging. I'm hopefully going in the right direction now and enjoying the nice blends that I'm getting here. I guess I'd be enjoying it more if I didn't have an audience. There we go. So don't be afraid to use dark colour within your flowers. That's what's going to make the lights look and the whites look whiter. There's an indication of some leaf here, but I'm not being too fussy about those. I'm not going to put a lot of leaf in. I think I'll leave those alone. I think they might look all right once they're dry. Right. Let's carry on down here. Where's my big brush gone? Looking for a nice greeny grey again. So I'm just trying to bring the petals shapes out without being too fussy about the detail. This way, hopefully my flower will become part of the background. soften that away a bit. But I need to create a nice centre now. Just getting the impression of what's going on in the centre there without getting too bogged down with the detail. So some of that nice bright new gamboge in there. Trying to put a bit of Chopin on instead. I think he's a little bit more interesting. Right. Sword brush. And the carmine that we used last week. You're not going to know what we've got there until it dries a bit more. We'll leave that and see what happens. I can change it if I need to, but I quite like the fact that it's running around doing its own thing. Don't be afraid to let things like that happen. Judge it later. Right, let's bring a bit more colour down here. I'm going to stop and just finish off at the bottom here because I haven't got that much time left and I've still got quite a bit to do. So what I need to do now is to work on this little centre here. In this one. So kind of making it up as I go along. I also tried to get some better music going on. I thought I'd done well with this playlist, but it seems to change a bit. Let me try something different here. That sounds nice. Right, okay, so just pull some of this down with a damp brush. And maybe let some of it creep around a bit. But also some of that nice bright yellow around there. Not looking for detail here. I think I'll be going over time this week, Sorry tech team, but I've got to yet to put some darks in, so I've emphasised those, as you can obviously tell. Right. Nice. I think we need a little bit of colour also under here. This one's got a few stamens showing. Maybe a little bit more depth under there. So this sword brush is nice to play around with to get some different marks. So I don't really know what to do about the stalks. I don't want the stalks to look too prominent really, so I'll try to soften those with water and just indicate the fact that there's something going on there, but it does need a little bit of structure, so that's what I'm kind of aiming for. Yeah. Right, good. Now some darks. Let's think about popping some depth in here, just to show them all up a little bit more than they already are. Hope you can see it all okay. I like what happened to the leaves there. They sort of are partly there but mostly disappeared, which is good. Right, I had this colour, didn't I? This nice quinacridone green or something. But let's just try now to sort of bring some of the colour out by being brave and popping a little bit more colour around here. Maybe using this brush so that I get some different marks going on, and maybe indicating some leaves without actually painting things. Soften that edge, drop some water in it, let those other colours show through, and now it's going to start showing up my flowers a little bit more. So you see what I mean about thinking about what you're doing and not just splashing it on willy-nilly and hoping it's all going to work out. You've still got to think about what might look nice and the colours that will look good together. So there's Windsor Blue, red shade, and that quinacridone green. I think that was what we had out, I can't quite remember now. But also, you see, I can allow some of these lovely colours to come back that we've already put down by lifting maybe and getting various shapes, but you can't get these shapes unless it's dry. This is why I wanted to dry it off a bit. But if you've got something really lovely that you love, try very hard not to cover it. There's some nice edges there which I don't really want to lose, so maybe let that side go because I'm not working around everything. Soften again. Now the shadows is showing up nicely within the flowers. Little glow of yellow there, that's nice. That all shows up quite well, that side, so I don't really feel I need to do that much there. So I'm going to get darker this side. So it's quite nice to create some other shapes within the background, which you can do by painting negatively around the dry area. So if nothing else this week, you should be able to learn quite a lot by just sort of playing around and practicing with these different techniques, which will all be very nice to use in the future. I was very impressed with the work that you've actually been doing this month with the animals and the snowdrops. They're all really quite difficult subjects, but you've actually gone for it. Although some of you felt a bit dubious about it, I think, you did it, which is amazing. And told me that you learnt a lot, which is good. And that's what it's about, going forward. You can't actually learn anything unless you try it, can you? It's a bit like my mother saying I was not to go into the water until I could swim. Doesn't really work that way, does it? Right, I must stop fiddling now and maybe leave it at this, because you've got the idea of the technique, and I can show you one that I did earlier that's dry, because honestly it makes such a difference if you allow all of this to dry before judging. A few directional strokes will give it some structure. So you can change the shapes of your flowers really by giving them a bit more of an edge with the deeper colours. Let some of that come into this flower, I think. It's not the star of the show. That one hopefully is. But I'm actually not going to touch it anymore at the moment. And I'll show you one that I did earlier that has dried and give you another idea as well. Right, so that's one I did earlier. And it has dried. It's very similar. Use the same process, use the same colours. If you don't like all the edging, you can always put it in a different amount to show, you know, the focal area up better. But that's one I did. And that's another one, using the same colours but actually concentrating more on the purples and the reds. So that's another one. But what I would suggest is for you to start by doing a little 10-minute sketch, a little 10-minute painting. That's all you need to do to really get the colours going and the shapes and seeing what you can actually achieve with the blending of the colours. So one or two little just 10-minute sketches will really sort of set you up and loosen you up to create something better on your main subject. Okay, so I'll probably tiddle around with this one a little bit more because can you see the one I've just done, but I've run out of time, but can you see how I've used the sword brush to actually give a little bit more detail and twiddly bits? That all helps just to give a little bit of structure to your picture and a little bit more interest, because the main thing is not to allow it to get too weak and not to allow your white flowers to disappear. But things like that, nice to do, another little technique to use, and it just brings it together nicely if you work in the direction that you see it all happening anyway. Okay, so I'll attach some tips, and I'll attach a photograph of my lovely white hellebore here and see how you get on, and I do hope you will have a go. Main thing I must say is don't judge it till you've finished until it's dry. This one isn't dry yet, but it is drying and it's getting there, okay? So hopefully, you know, it'll be all right in the end. And I can always do that, which, again, I think concentrates the eye on the area that is important. So I like that. Okay, good. See you next week when I'm going to be painting primroses. Probably not loosely. Okay, bye.